Hey everyone, my name is Anthony with Remodel Construction, and today I want to talk to everybody about how to pick out and how to stain your trim. So we're talking about the wood piece that goes around the windows, around your patio door, and then your base, everything that goes around the bottom parts of the walls on the house, right? We're a custom remodeler, so this is a paramount thing to get right when you're finishing out a job. Now the most important thing that a lot of people I think miss is the trim is one of the last things that you do on a house, right? And so a lot of people kind of get to the end and they go to the store and then they just pick out some trim that looks nice and they bring it home and then they realize this doesn't match at all. There's a couple different ways to go about this. A lot of the housing and stuff right now has MDF trim, which is painted white, which is fine. It hides the different grains and stuff a little bit easier. But we're going to focus today on when you have to stain trim. So a lot of 90s houses have like golden oak cabinetry and stuff like that. When you're going through and trying to match something like that, it's really important to understand, first off, what type of grain wood you have and how that's going to affect the look as you stain it. And then secondly, how the stain is going to look both in and out of lighting, right? There's some different applications that you'll want to take into consideration when putting them into different rooms. So first thing we want to talk about is your different wood grain. So if you can see between the two here, the top one is pine, the bottom one is oak. A lot of people, when you look at kitchen cabinetry, especially your 90s golden oak, it's going to look a lot like this. The wood grain is going to be a lot more defined. It's going to have some striations in here that are closer together. Whereas on a pine piece or poplar or anything like this, you notice you don't have the different colorations in here. You don't have the darker marks. And the wood grain is just a lot smoother throughout, right? Now, why this is such an important thing to get right is there's a lot of differences when you're putting it into the house, right? If you stain, like this is a provincial stain on the oak, right? And you see in the lighting, and we're in a little bit of shade outside, but you see in the lighting how all of the grain really pops. And this is only 2 coats. This is something that you got to take in consideration when staining trim for your house, right? Because if you're going for a golden oak color, obviously you wouldn't use this, but you have to make sure that you're using the correct amount of coats, one for the trim so you don't go too dark, and then secondly, you have to make sure that when you clear coat this, you can do a couple different finishes on it, but when you clear coat it, that you're not overdoing it or creating too much shine on it, because you want it to match as well as possible, right? So a couple things that we recommend is, one, get a couple different pieces of trim, just like we have here, right? Cut them into 1 foot lengths. Play around with your stains. Do a sample piece every single time. When you guys are going to do your the trim in your house, make sure you do something like this prior. And then secondly, I always recommend this, when you're going into the different rooms that you want to put the trim on, put those pieces up against the wall in the light and in the shade. It's hard to do out here, but when you're looking at this trim in the light, you don't see all the darker stains in here, right? It's not going to show up as much. As soon as this piece gets into the shade, it appears a lot darker. Same here. You're going to see a lot of contrast when this goes into the shade versus into a light room. So most important things is to get your sample pieces all done up. Do 2 coats, do a nice satin finish or something like that, or clear coat on these things, and then get them into the rooms. Let them sit up against there and just back up, take a good look at it both in the light and in the shade. That's going to give you the best idea of how this is all going to look at the end. Again, there's oak, pine, poplar, all kinds of different stuff. And if you guys are ever redoing trim, highly recommend using real wood. Don't use the fake stuff. Reason for that is if you have any water, saturation, anything like that, this does not get ruined as easily. So especially in basements, use real wood.